So, why did you pick this path? Where did this come from? Like, why did you pick Zen and how do you say the other one? Jōdo Shinshū?
Jōdo Shinshū, yeah, Pure Land.
Jōdo Shinshū, rather than any other Buddhist path. Why did you resonate with those?
Yeah, I think they partially were not picked for me, but the context that I grew up around.
Hmm.
When I was about 12, like 8 to 12 was a kind of weird, tumultuous time in my home. And by 12, I'd kind of, split a little bit with my parents. And I'd been doing martial arts. I started with Kung Fu when I was younger, really young. And at 12, I started Aikido. And I kind of went to this dojo that I found just like by skateboarding around my neighborhood. And I was just like, oh, what are they doing in there? Like, I think I did like an after school program for Kung Fu and they like left my school. And so I was just like, I don't do that anymore. I'll check out whatever these people are doing. And I walked in and just like sat in the back of and watched the end of a class. And then somebody came and talked to me. And I kind of ended up from that moment being really taken in by this dojo. And they kind of helped raise me a little. I stayed there a bunch. It was like a real haven for me. And so there, they kind of became, my like, I don't know, 7 to 10 extra dads. And they all are Japanese Hawaiian men who and have families who all go to a Jōdo Shinshū or like a Japanese Pure Land temple every Sunday for like Sunday religious services and like, weddings or things like that. But then at the dojo, we practice Zen. Like there's a Zendo, and we every single day at Zen training there was like the philosophical part of like my black belt was like a Zen, essay. Like there's so much teachings that were just Rinzai Zen,
They
and
have
so
belts
it
in
was in.
Zen?
No, they don't have belts in Zen. The black belt was for Aikido, but
Got you,
I
gotcha.
had like, sorry. Yeah, no,
Okay,
no, not a belt in Zen, but
gotcha.
like just within every single martial arts component, there was like a Zen balance point that was just like,
Makes
for
sense.
your own training. Yeah,
Hmm.
not graded for the art, but just like taken into context.
Hmm.
Um, and so from 12 on, I would learn about Jōdo Shinshū or Pure Land through the temple and then practice, train, be a Zen practitioner from there on. And then now I train at a monastery out here. It's the same lineage, actually, but just different place. I train at a Zen monastery called Korinji in Wisconsin. And then I am like a minister's assistant and I run the meditation program out of a Jōdo Shinshū temple in Chicago. So I'm
Mm,
kind of real steeped in both.
yeah, that's awesome. So what
Yeah,
is
long answer. Sorry.
no, that's perfect. That was perfect. So what is the what is like a practice like if you could go through a daily practice of Zen or also the
Mm,
Jōdo Shinshū? Like what do you do at a regular session?
yeah. For Zen, that's where my like core meditation practices are all born from. And so a daily practice can look a bunch of different ways in my life. Like right now, I'm just in my office. Um, this my daily practice is really communal. So my job is also meditation instructor or like communal healing practitioner. And so I do grief sessions with people who might be losing somebody or in the dying process and do regular meditation sessions with people who just want to learn how to meditate, who are, you know, working on some aspect of themselves. So there's a lot of aspects of my practice that get folded in by the people around me. And then for my personal practice, usually I like to try to, like if I was just going to do like a morning and end of the day sit or something, like on a busy day, I would try to do like 30 to 40 minutes seated and then a little walking. Okyo, which is like the chanting, there's like a morning service. So I would do my chanting and then probably do that again at night as like a simple 1 hour. And
Hmm.
then I do sesshin, which is like the week long silent, or it ranges how long it is, but like a silent retreat. And so for those, they're much more intensive. It's like 4:30 to 11 p.m., midnight,
Wow.
is really scheduled out. But you're at the monastery, so you have like the container for that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but those I really enjoy. I think this year I spent like a month out there in total. And it's a really interesting way to be with yourself.
Mm.
Waking up at 4:30. There's one at our monastery. His name's Shokan, who's the Jikijitsu, the head monk of the meditation hall. And he like wakes everybody up with this bell and he yells Kaijo, but he yells it like so intensely. And then you just like pop up from your little bunk or, depending on where you're sleeping, your sleeping bag. Um, and everybody bows together. And that's like the start of the day. You got 20 minutes to get back to your spot and have everything put away. And you start with tea together, really formal. Everybody drinks in like 3 sips. It's like umeboshi, sour plum tea. And it like gets your kind of body going. You do doinho, which is like your uh, it's a big system, but there's part of it that's like a stretching exercise. So you all do your movements together, and then you do the first sit of the day, and it kind of just goes on from there. Every hour has something, or maybe a break, but you do the kind of monastic breakfast where it's part of zazen. You go down, chant through it, you eat the rice gruel. You have like the same little 5 bowls and everything. And then interviews with the Roshi, who's my teacher, the abbot of the monastery. That happens 2 to 3 times a day. But yeah, like maybe at the most relaxed time of the year, 9 hours of meditation a day or eight.
Wow.
And then at the most intense, 12 to 15 or something.
Wow. Breathing, just simple breathing.
That there's always walking meditation breaking up the sits because there's so many sits.
Mm-hmm.
So breathing, some people have koans. It depends on where you are in your practice. So maybe you're working on a koan, like the Zen riddles,
Yep.
or maybe you're working on something that your teacher and you have discussed. But primarily, yeah, just seated zazen. Walking meditation is called kinhin. Sometimes walking is Soto is like the slow Zen school, and Rinzai is the fast Zen school. These are very sweeping generalizations that are not really true, but in essence, if you think of how it like optically looks ritual wise, it's pretty true. Soto has like the really slow walking, like you can think of like Thich Nhat Hanh, like drink your tea and really be there,
Mm.
and Rinzai is like throw your whole body into it as hard as you can and be there that way. And so walking meditation starts slow and then sometimes it gets real quick and you're all like trying to stay in step with each other. It's really nice. It kind of makes your body a different kind of vehicle. And there's slowness in, you're sitting for 10 hours. So that's pretty slow. But when you're moving, you're really moving. So it's nice back and forth or balance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So to an outside perspective, to a
Mm.
layperson, I guess you could say all of that would seem like craziness. They would seem like why would you put yourself through that? So what does that do for
Yeah.
you in your mind? What does it do for your whole being to go through things like that?
Yeah. I think it sounds crazy, but so does, I think, maybe everybody's life if you really took a while to explain it as if it were as unique as it is, Like today I did this and then I did that. Like everybody's life is kind of wild,
Mm,
but yeah, I respect the fact that it's uniquely wild in this context of where we live. And so I don't know, for me, my life was so intense at a young age. There was so much struggle. There was so much conflict. My being black, being raised in a primarily white-ish area. Well, no, going to white schools, but then living in a like immigrant areas. So everything felt very juxtaposed. Half of my family, a mixed race, so they look different, talk different. I am queer, I'm trans. These were issues with me and my parents starting at a really young age. And so I remember feeling super intense, very young, feeling really connected to my body in a way that I didn't understand, but I knew like it felt like the world and my parents were like pushing me away from what I knew, like in
Mm,
my body and in
yeah.
my spirit. And so practicing martial arts felt like where I really unified that. My parents both come from military households. They're really intense. They're like 3 sports a year, straight A's, kind of, excel type of people. And so that was the context I was put into. And I think doing martial arts, doing Zen felt like, okay, I have all of that intensity that my parents are throwing at me. I have all of this like same amount of opportunities to succeed or fail or all of these different things or rise up to, the occasion or push through something, but I get to choose it and there's reasons. Like it makes more sense. I feel like being a kid who's like experienced different kinds of abuses, nothing makes sense. It's not pain that you're able to understand or even really
Mm,
comprehend at that young. You just feel it and you do what you do with that. It
yeah.
manifests in different ways. And so getting to be like, okay, yeah, my body hurts, or like I, took 50 break falls today, but that was because I'm training for, my purple belt or whatever. Like just like having a reason and a context for pain, I
Mm,
think gave me a way out of the other pain I was in, like a preliminary, holding room to be like, okay, if I don't understand suffering yet, I'm way too young and I just know I experience it, maybe I'll just try to choose it first to see what that teaches me. And I think that kind of, not so literally because I was young, excuse me, but in retrospect, I think that's kind of what I was doing.
oh, yeah.
And
Oh.
then eventually, now I'm like, okay, how do I not choose pain? How do I not make that the choice just by
Yeah.
default? But yeah,
But
I
first,
think
you
the
almost had to
intensity
go,
matched.
yeah, you had to go like headlong into the pain. Almost had to get to
Yeah,
know the pain more in order to better handle the pain that wasn't of your own accord.
exactly. Yeah. Um,
It's interesting.
yeah. How did you come to your practice? I feel like most people are leaning into something or leaning away from something. And for me, it was like a full throttle lean in.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty similar. I mean, I think a lot of
Mm,
people come into these kind of practices, whether it's Zen or yoga or just meditation in general, in order to find a different way. Whether it's a way out or way in, like you said. I guess it can be the same thing depending on how you look at it. But I think you have to go into your suffering to figure out what it is first, and
mm,
how what it is means for your being in order to know how to handle your suffering in the future. So for me,
yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of mental issues as well. I don't want to go too much into it, but it was just like a feeling of there's got to be another way to do this life thing. There's got to be
Mm,
another way to happiness, to peace that they talk about. So um, yeah, it started off with meditation, just really sitting with what that is, what that feels like, and then realizing that you can just witness it. You can just kind of
mm,
watch it come and go. That's a huge lesson. That
mm,
one that was I try to keep that in the back of my head. But it just started off with suffering. I think that's kind of where, like I said, all of us start off to get on
mm,
the path, is to just say, hey man, there's got to be there's got to be another way. There's got to be another way to do this. And there is. Thankfully, there's different techniques for us out there, and different paths, even though it's all the same path,
yeah.
essentially. There's different ways to go about this, and whatever floats your boat, to
Mm,
figure out how to negate suffering in our life, because I think that's what we all want, to find a little bit of peace and happiness. So it all just stemmed from me wanting to just be happy. Putting it simply, wanting to find a
yeah.
little bit of peace, and I'm still on the journey, still on the path. I think it never ends. Once you get on it, you don't
Yeah.
really get off it. The journey is the destination. Cliche, but it's kind of true.
No, I totally hear that. Yeah, I feel that. Thank you for sharing. I think I definitely have been really grateful also for like I really appreciate Zen and the tools that it offers me and like the structure it's given my life, and the different ways I've been able to fall back into it when I've like stepped away for a little while, stepped away as if that's really possible for me, but like, been less participatory, or more on my own, and moved all around for a little bit. And I think as my like truest lineage, it would be myself as an abolitionist, myself as a descendant of enslaved peoples on this land who were fighting to free themselves to get
Hmm.
free. And I
Oh.
think the way I protest, the way I organize with my community, I have this like little like sangha that's like an abolitionist sangha, that I facilitate. And I think I feel really kind of anti-sectarian, which is one reason I really like the word lineage rather than sect, because, they're just, like you're saying, different unfoldings of the same exact path.
Yeah.
And so dividing them so intensely obviously creates a lot of conflict.
Hmm.
But I think through abolition and Zen are the same to me.
Mm.
To free myself is to free myself in every sense of the word. And
Yeah.
I can't do it one way that's not the other way, right? If it's freedom, it's freedom. And so like abolishing my dualistic mind is the same thing as abolishing my perceived safety in the prison system, my like different ways that are obstructing my communal sense of living, like giving into capitalism so intensely is not something I have to do. That's something I feel like my context has really shoved me into that same mindset you're describing of there has to be another way.
Hmm.
Like, this can't be it. This can't be how we're meant to exist with each other with all of these barriers to happiness, peace, joy, love. And so, in trying to find that other way, I've found so much connection and so much like inner discovery that feels not so bound, so like egotistically, like I'm on a wellness journey and I am now my personality is being the better me. Like, it doesn't feel so bound up. I think I can get really obsessed often, which is why I'm suited for Zen. I think people who can get really intense float towards really intense practices.
Mm.
And so instead of like working out to the point where I'm getting injured or I'm too tired or it's just unhealthy, like I can funnel that kind of energy into something else. And it just births a different type of awareness for me, at least. Like, it makes more sense in my body and less distraction in my mind.
I see.
Yeah.
Well said. So, how would you describe the way of Zen to somebody that has no idea what the way is like? And I know it's like, it's kind of like Fight Club. You don't talk about it, right? But if we can try to
Yeah.
point in the direction of what that is, how would you describe
I would say, one, we should talk about it. Me and my friends, as martial arts kids, have fight clubs all the time, and we're talking about them.
it? Nice.
They're a lot more fun if you get to talk about it. But two, um, how would I describe the way of Zen? I would say a bunch of different teachers have described it better than me and have, systemological definitions that anyone can look up. So I'll spare myself and everybody the
Okay.
detailed answer.
Mhm.
But for me, the heart of it is really uh, this concept of direct pointing comes up a lot in Rinzai Zen, uh, specifically, but of like really discovering your true nature,
Mhm.
of a path that is not like Jōdo Shinshū, Pure Land sects or lineages that are kind of more external in focus. They're focusing on the Amida Buddha. They are taking refuge in the salvation that they know is theirs, which is one path, but it is a path of direct attainment through letting your small experiences of awakening be a guide to your bigger experiences. So really being like, what can I feel and experience in this body right now, in this form, with all these conditions? And how can these obstacles be? Well, that's something my teacher said recently, Mito Moore, but he was saying like, your obstacles are your practice. Like the Zen path is through it exactly how it is. So we're trying to discover our own true nature in order to understand, the true nature of all things. And so you throw yourself into practice or whatever vehicle you have. We have different access. Not every person's Zen looks the same. But really trying to understand yourself, your conditions, your suffering, the harm you cause, and using that to dissolve a lot of the false conceptions that we have or we've formed maybe over the years.
Mm.
And one primary practice I really appreciate, probably the most important ritual or communication in our practice would be sanzen, which is meeting with the teacher. And so, not in a hierarchical sense, but in a sense of having somebody who's gone before you
Yeah.
and done what you're doing and who can guide you and reflect accurately back, or who sees you over time, who can be kind of a more reliable narrator for yourself or guide,
Yeah.
is really important, and where the practice is for me is in the, well, I mean, literally that's the most important practice for us, but also for me it feels like those connections, that kind of like seeing somebody without and with your full context. So being like, this is me, this is you, but also there's something entirely beyond that is just the connection of us being two breathing beings together right now in this room. And how do we like handle all that? And for me, like those 2 minutes that we like go in and go out 3 times a day or whatever to the Roshi, it's such a short amount of time, but that is like the engine and heart of the practice, and returning to like, okay, it's not just me. And, all these crazy feelings that I just felt for 10 hours by myself in my head, one, I can let them go. And two, like, they're not so special.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was intense, but, it was just a thought, and let's move
Mm-hmm.
on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that those kind of practices really let the path of Zen unfold for people in interesting ways. And I think I really appreciate those.
So what do you, I guess, speak about when you're with your teacher?
Mm.
So is it usually like, let's say X amount of hours of meditation, then you meet with your teacher to almost like summarize what happened, or what is it actually spoke about?
Not quite. You meet in the morning, the afternoon, and the evening, and you you could give a summary. You could, be reporting on your koan, giving answers, trying over and over again to solve your koan. Or, maybe you're somebody who doesn't have a koan practice, so you're just working on your breathing, you're asking for advice or something like that. There's beginners who come too, so there's like all levels of conversation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's an extension of zazen. So you're in seated meditation. There's some bell ringing rituals and stuff, and then you all go walk up the hill together in a line, or kind of jog up the hill together in a line, and you sit in a line together and go in one by one in this very formal way. And there's these 3 bows you do as you enter. So you do 1 bow at the door, and then you come. There's this like little room in the corner of ours. They can be set up differently, but ours, there's a little room in the corner. So you do a bow there, and then you get to your little mat, and you both bow to each other. And then as you sit up, you like make eye contact. And there's this moment of like really trying to at least be my full, authentic, unobstructed self in that moment with the Roshi, like having that, like, let everything go. And then from there, and using that momentum of your meditation that you've been, gestating with or whatever, you give an answer to your koan or you say whatever, but it's less a summary of what's happening and more an opportunity to like be fully embodied, like to really have somebody who has, not the answers, but a response at least to maybe what you're saying, and to have a model to return to of like his job in that situation is to be in a full like samadhi experience, is to really be like open and in like a flow state basically. And so you get to walk into that, and like if you need some of it, it's there for you. Like if you feel all crazy or distracted, or sometimes you get really nervous because he's kind of, he's really nice and fun, but like he's also a Zen teacher, so he's intense, and sometimes you just like get intimidated for no reason, and you're just like, oh no, he's gonna know that I just was really fucking off today. But yeah, it's a really interesting ritual. It's nice to practice. But yeah, I would say throughout all the things you talk about, regardless, the feeling of it is what like kind of guides you a lot, and you end up like it's like having somebody who's not just a little, but like a little better than you on like a sports team or something, and it like makes things a little more fun because you're just like, whoa, like I want to get there. How did they do that? And so you get to like see that every single time you go back in there, and it kind of corrects your course for you.
Makes sense. Just show you like an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah.
Exactly. There's the one teaching, I can't remember what context I'm thinking of what I read this in, but it's very simple teachings, but it's just like the translation of the like teacher word is in Sanskrit, is it mitra or mita? It's like great friend is really the actual translation of it. And so having a good friend who's gone before is the like student teacher relationship. And in that essence, it really, I think looking at it that way, de-hierarchy makes it a little less hierarchical for me, which is always my comfort zone. Institutions tend to give me a little friction.
Yeah, same. Yeah. From what I know about Zen, that's what it seems that's what seems pretty cool about it, is there's less like, I guess you could say less strict, even though in the practices it seems pretty strict, but in the hierarchical sense, it doesn't seem so rigid in how you have to follow like any sort of doctrine. It doesn't seem like you like there's not a lot as many rules, I guess you could say. From what I know, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, it's like the way they say it usually, it's not bound by letters, in meaning like it's everybody's path is going to look different. Somebody might not even meditate, like it's very rare, but like that might not be your path, is meditation. And very well, it might not be, very commonly it might not be seated meditation, it might be something else. You might just be breath counting your whole life, and that's your vehicle. You might never do a koan, you might never do XYZ, because the point is to be there in the moment. And so you can't have one solution like that doesn't work out, as we've learned, over and over again. And so with Zen, even if it can look rigid or can be really diverse depending on where you're from, how it is practiced, the essence of it is that, all of these practices are just tools, and they all came from the same place anyways. So let's use them in the way that's suited to us, and understand that the ones that aren't suited to us are teaching us something else, but we don't have to keep doing that. We can do something else.
And they're tools to become at one with the moment at all times. Like I know there is no goal,
Mm.
but if there is some kind of goal that we can speak upon, it's to be completely engrossed in the here and now, and then boom, enlightenment. Is that the essence
Mm.
that Zen is getting at? Is like to simply be present with whatever's going on in your experience, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're meditating or not meditating. Like you literally make your life a
Mm.
meditation in a way.
You do. Sorry, I just
It's
hit
fine.
a bell twice. um, you do. You do try to. You could say you try to make your life a meditation. I wouldn't say it's just presence, though. I think that's probably one of the first. You know, if there were like 10 gates or something, that's like in two or three. I think presence gives us a chance to see, but having awareness and presence and then also embodiment.
Hmm.
And these are similar words, but if we have, today's working definition would be that awareness is, or in presence is, okay, I finally showed up. Like I'm in my body. I kind of can feel all my sensations. I know what I taste, touch, hear, see, smell, all those sorts of things. I'm present. And then once I am aware, I can extend that presence outside just this physical form. I am aware of what's going on around me. I'm aware of the energy in the room. I'm aware of the situation that might be playing out. And then being embodied through that awareness would be staying grounded in the experience completely, maybe like being able to maintain my like whole body's balancing system while moving through everything, not having to speed up to anybody's speed or slow down to anybody's speed, but being able to like be an integrated self during each act
Mm-hmm.
and being able to really then once you can do all that, which is a lot to do, understand
Oh
what
yeah,
you're doing,
I see.
why, and the like chain of cause and effect that has produced you and is playing out with each of your breath. Like how, if I were, I don't know what enlightenment is like, but I know that when I have felt most in tune to myself and in tune to my community and my body as like the land and everything, I think that it feels connective in a way that is not strained and is not inauthentic to myself and has space for everything all at once. It doesn't need to bifurcate my experiences into pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, into joyful, sad. It really accepts them all as one thing. And so for me, it's that rather than gaining something, attaining something, it's the dissolution
Mm,
of what is in the way of seeing what's already there.
I see. Mm-hmm. Dissolution of our barriers that we build up to, and it's almost like barriers that uh, act as like a dam, I
Mm,
guess like to the current of life, like
yeah,
like something that is like takes us out of the flow, I guess you could say, right? And that comes
yeah.
through comes through presence, awareness,
Mm,
and then
yeah,
understanding, and then embodying that understanding. Is that the right order that you just said?
yeah.
Yeah.
I said embodying before understanding, but either
Yeah.
way works.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
But
sense.
yeah, I think yeah, that's a great summary. And yeah, I feel like that kind of path really allows for it not to be so rigid, even though it's so structured.
Mm,
Like you were saying, like Zen looks super formal. Like if you're in monastery training, in like a full Soto monastery, like I'm in, like it's really intensely rigid in
Mm-hmm.
its forms, but in the experience of it, it's so fluid and fast. And I think the way that it's like, have you ever been like in a fight with somebody who you really love and your feelings are hurt, but you're mad? And all you want to do is like have your feelings get tended to, and you like want to reach out and like get the care that, you know, whatever that person, whoever they are to you, is there and willing to offer, but you can't because you're so mad at them. And so you're just stuck and you're just like, I wish I could like connect with you, but like my anger is a pure blocking point to this right now. As like a simple example,
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to, in the moment, be like, this is what's happening. Like, I am grieving this thing and holding this untended need that is, you know, manifesting as anger or whatever, instead of letting myself be locked in this kind of paralysis of, you know, emotion going up and down or whatever. I can let those just be true and
Mm.
speak about it and like communicate it and have a different relation, like a radically different relationship to my own pain and the way that it is allowed in the room and the way that we can deal with it. And
Yeah.
so I think inviting those things into the relationships that I have has really changed the way I view myself
Mm. Yeah.
or even others. You know, like when I rest, I let people rest more.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can come to see it's the same thing that, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
we're ultimately all connected to each other. And that's what you can
Yeah.
find in that, in the meditation sets. You can find that there's an energetic connection that we all hold, and when you do hold that within yourself, other people are also affected as well. It's, you know, we're all connected energetically at a deeper
Mm.
level that goes beyond sight and goes beyond any of the five senses. There's something else going on that yeah, connects us to the current. You know, the current is all of us. We're all this current. We're all this flow, this wave.
Mm.
So yeah, if you open up to yourself, to the current, other people will also feel it as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's this great book I'm reading right now called Hospicing Modernity. And the basic premise is that we are in this like modern age, right? We're the modern era. And that way of living is dying. The like capitalism is imploding on itself over and over again, all these sorts of things. And so instead of fighting against it, instead of just digging our heels in and waiting for it to really explode, to just massacre each other, we can hospice it. We can really carry it, like death doula it into a new way of living and let it die, let it be, let it close as it wants to. And in the like opening chapter of that book, she's talking about, I think it's Vanessa something de Machado is her last name. Oliveira de Machado or Machado de Oliveira, one of the ways.
Mm-hmm.
But she is describing us humans and living beings and things as the metabolism of the earth.
Oh,
So
that's
to
really beautiful.
really, yeah, see us as just things that are breaking down and processing other materials so that new life can be born, right? Like the same way a deer eats a leaf, poops it out, it becomes a tree. We're digesting, breaking down the earth and coming out of it again. And so I think thinking of myself that way has been helpful for it not being such a scary thing to like let go of self or let go of ego or things like that. Sometimes that kind of ego death or dissolution of your like rigid concept of yourself can be really scary for people, and understandably so. Or it can feel really nihilistic or really treacherous. The uncertainty can be frightening. What comes after that? But I think seeing myself as part of the ecosystem, not just like I'm a human and you know we kill these things to eat these things, but like no, I'm part of this system of life that is really integrated. And so poisoning the well anywhere is poisoning the whole system. So if I'm hurt, if you're hurt, whoever's hurt, the whole system is hurt.
Yeah.
There's a wound in one integral thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so that has been a really nice thing to think about, I think, for me. I think those are like the more hopeful ways to think about those kind of big, scary concepts.
Yeah. Right. Uh, so do you think that's where we're going? Is our identity is morphing from this, the universe revolving around me, and it's all about me, I, the, the egotistical way of seeing things, and our identity is really kind of expanding to each other, and we're seeing each other, we're seeing ourselves
Mm.
in each other.
I would hope so. I
Yeah,
don't
me
know if
too.
we are, but I would say that's what I see with me and my friends, at least. I can only speak to my communities. And I think that's been a source of great joy and grief for me, is seeing this like new way of living, of really radically being myself and letting people be their selves and trying to meet each other there and build from a more honest point that recognizes true context and brings our full selves into the room. I think that has built really beautiful community for me. I mean, I'm able to offer most of my teachings for like free or very little money because I'm able to like ask for help when I have no money. And that's something like in my family that like would never be done. It's like, super shameful, super intense. You gotta, pull yourself up and just work, work, work. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, why? Like, for who? If I have like a rich friend who has 300 extra bucks and I have had a truly shitty month and I just like need 300 bucks for rent, like I should be able to ask and to know that like money is the same thing as everything else. Like it's all just we're helping each other find ease or we're helping each other be. And
Mm-hmm.
to like destigmatize, to use a big word for now, like the actual act of living, like the
Mm.
interdependence that is integral and necessary for how we are to like to live that way has been really eye opening. And it's so different than my family. So I feel like every time I go back, I get thrown for a loop and I'm just like, I don't even know how to fit into this context anymore. I feel like I'm such a different, revolution of myself. But it's been, yeah, interesting to see my world change so radically from the one I was grown up or the one I grew up in first. And, I'm still connected to, but have also changed so much, obviously. And so, yeah, being in communities, especially in just like queer trans community, there's so much space to be. There's so much like,
Openness.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and really like play. Like play is at the forefront. We're a lot of people who have had our instinctual ways of play stamped out, shamed, uh, punished, become a source of violence or, you know, inner or outer harm. And so I think all of us are really urgently trying to understand, you know, how do I want to be and play? How do I want to connect and see? And in that like urgency through that particular vehicle of struggle of, you know, just who you are is a big problem. I think that like human impulse to be like, no, I'm not a problem means you're not a problem. And then that leads to all of that kind of, this isn't a problem. This is what it is. This is just how we are. And
Yeah.
so let's start there rather than being like, no, this is, shame this, shame that, put it away, put it away. And then we just get farther and farther away from anything, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I see like my parents stuck in their 50-year jobs and they built a beautiful life for themselves. They provided what they could and beautiful things for me, but I just wish more ease and happiness for them that I
Mm.
don't think they can dream for themselves yet,
Mm. Mm.
which makes me sad.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I
Mm,
feel that. I feel that as well with people in my life. But
yeah.
yeah, ultimately, I think this is the way of the future is us recognizing what we truly want in our heart, not what society tells us. we want or
Mm.
how we should be or how we should act. It's like truly taking the time to meditate, do whatever you got to do to go within and figure out what, where your internal barometer points you toward. Like where exactly, how do you fit in or not fit in? Like how do you just fit in within yourself is what I'm trying to say. Like how do
Hmm.
you like what do you truly want? Because I think we all have like a direction or like we all have like things that we want. I don't know if want is even the right word, but we all have like a certain kind of like resonance with just how we want to live as a human being here and explore. And like you said, play. Like how do we want
Hmm.
to play this game of life? We all have that like internal guidance. Like there's some kind of intuitive guidance that we can all find and how to be. And I think
Mm.
that's the new world is us really being able to explore that and helping others, finding communities that also enable others to be able to do that in an open container like fashion. I think that's the
Mm.
new world we're moving toward, but it's weird because this is a transitory period where it's like we're going from this old world of old ways, just
Mm.
very rigid in its structure, very just like yeah, it's kind of gross to be honest. But
Yeah.
we're going from that and into a lot more open world, a lot more accepting world, hopefully. And
Mm.
it's uh it's weird because we're still living amongst that, but like we're
Mm.
also like at the same time bringing about this new world like into the actually like we're actually embodying it at the same time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get there. It might take some few generations. We might have to raise our kin to be in a better way. But I think ultimately the cat's out of the bag. Like we've opened Pandora's box to how humans are supposed to act. And I know there's no supposed to or not supposed to in the way of Zen, I guess in the ultimate sense, but I do think there is a certain kind of orientation for how human beings are supposed to act with each other. And I think it's just community. We're all just be there for each other. And um,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna get there. I think we're gonna get there. Um,
Yeah. I think we've also been there before. That's
mm,
something I like to
yeah,
remind myself
like a
of. Like,
remembrance.
yeah, like America's 400 years old,
Yeah,
like this isn't the
exactly.
way it's always been. And colonialism isn't the way it's always been either. Like people existed. Like, how do you hunt a buffalo? How do you look at a field with full awareness? Like if that's not meditation, I don't know what is. To
Mm,
see a whole field and shoot an arrow across and, know how to be with that animal in its death. That's a way of living that is fully embodied, fully in tune with the seasons, fully in tune with the system that it is a
the
part of.
earth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so these aren't, nothing is as new as it is, nothing's new. Like
Mm,
we have finite lives, and within finite containers, things repeat.
yeah.
If it's not infinite, things repeat. And so knowing that people have already figured this out, and that, like you're saying, there are ways of being that are suited to us, like there are, and it's not this, it's certainly not this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and being like, okay, well, then what is it? That like dreaming practice, I think, is where I find the most play and joy, and like really knowing that what, if we take the Buddhist logic thought of, or the Buddhistic logic thought path of, we are our thoughts, we are just made up of, like that's the self is just all these thoughts coming together, and that's like a perception that I have, that's who I think is me. Then in the same vein, our dreams are the future. What we can dream is what we can see. And so, or like Pema Chodron says, I think, like how we live is how we die, the same sort of thing. And so, if we live in great strife, we'll die in great strife. And so, if we just accept that, that's going to be what it is. But if we find a way to live differently, we might die differently. It might be a different experience, and that could be cool. Or we might find a different, older way of being or newer way of being. Time doesn't really matter there, but a way of connecting that really, I think, leads us to actual repair and healing. to know that the harm that is being caused can be named, dealt with, and repaired. All of those things, not just it just gets named, or there's a little bit of repair, but there's some obscurity about the exactness of it. So then it just keeps happening again. Like we have to bring it all together. And I think, like you're saying, it feels like that's what we're pushing towards. Um, and even if humans don't get it right, the world already did. So, the water will keep being water, and
Hmm.
the mountains will still be there, becoming volcanoes and going back into the ocean. So
Exactly.
it'll balance out, but hopefully I think we will too.
We'll see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree though. That's true. Yeah, it's all gonna be good, even if there's no such thing as humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's hard to accept that, but I don't think it's so scary. And
it's not.
honestly, thinking of the world, I'm like, that could probably be the best thing for it. But I try not to go down that path. I try to stay
Yeah,
here and now.
yeah. Well, with kids, it's just because of how humans conduct themselves. I really think human beings are
Yeah.
supposed to be like the caretakers of Earth, but we have
Mm,
free will. So in that free will, we have destroyed our morals in a way and destroyed the Earth at the same time. But I do believe this new path that we're talking about, this new way of living, is not only better for human beings and our well-being, but also better for the well-being of Earth as a whole. And we have the ability to do that as well. But yeah, at our current trajectory seems a little bleak. So maybe it might be better for the Earth for humans not to be alive, but we'll see. I think we can. I think we can.
yeah.
I
Who
think we can
knows?
turn it around.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
I
yeah,
don't know.
time is so expansive. We could do anything.
Yeah, we could do anything, seriously. But yeah, I think there'll always be the current. There'll always be that the way, the Tao, the Tao lives with or without humans. It will always be there. There is no like it doesn't the Tao doesn't matter. It doesn't care about our humanly woes and the drama of life and us trying to get a new car or look cool or trying to to do anything for clout or money or anything like that. The Tao is the Tao. And I like what you said, the rivers will always flow, the mountains will always grow. Like there will always be that essence. And if you identify with that essence of life, not even identify, but if you can just flow with that,
Mm,
and I think that is a sense of that's a sense of peace, at least for me. Can't speak for
yeah.
anybody else, but that's a sense of peace for me.
Yeah. That definitely brings me peace. I think there's this one Netflix documentary on infinity. It's like a newer one. It's great. I'm sure if you just look up infinity on there, it'll pop up, and it's the
Yeah, I
newest
know what
one.
you're talking about. I haven't seen
Um,
it, but I know what you're talking
but
about.
yeah, it feels like I was watching it with my partner, and I always joke with them. They grew up Muslim and know a little bit about Buddhism, but mostly learn about more and more by being with me over the years. And um, we were watching it, and I was like, "This is a Buddhist documentary. I know they're talking about science, but this is just Buddhism. Like,
Yeah.
take all the math out, and it's just Buddhism." Because they were
Wow.
just like talking about the end of life and like the different like life completely, as in planets and different things like that, and different sizes of infinity, different types of infinity, like the distance between one and two and the distance between one and three. Both of those are infinite, but one is a bigger infinity.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
so
Yeah, wow. That's trippy.
yeah, like just really breaking down the concept of one and
Hmm.
other and like one or zero. And so thinking of things like that, I think for me, it brings me peace, and it's a different container. I'm not just this form anymore. I'm all of the forms because they're
Hmm.
all empty.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. If we can get, how would you describe emptiness as peace?
Mm. The Heart Sutra is one of my favorite sutras. Or it is my favorite sutra. And it talks about form and emptiness a lot. And I think for me, chanting that would be the experience of emptiness as peace. But on an intellectual level, Knowing that nothing is separate. Nothing is its like emptiness has to be empty of something. What is it empty of? It's not just doesn't exist on itself. And so if you're empty of something, you can I think the teachings are saying that we're like empty of an interdependent or a non-interdependent self, a self that has no like come up just by itself and no connection to other things born of itself that doesn't exist. Everything is connected, everything's interdependent. And so emptiness doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean something's not there, but it means that it can't exist on its own. It can't be boiled down to any one thing. So there's like, a bunch of ways of that people have or teachers have used like exercises to explain this. Like when you think of, your nose and you're just like, okay, where does my nose end? Is it here or here? Is this still my nose? Is that still my nose? And then this is my nose. Is it me? If I took it off, would
Yeah.
I still be me? Is
Yeah.
this nose me?
Mhm.
All those sorts of things. I think knowing in the same way that my form is change. It's not the thing that I see.
Mhm.
And all of our current or flow, all this, Tao, whatever words you want to use, is the same in all of its manifestations. It's the same in all of its differentness. It doesn't have to abide by the rules that I know. It doesn't have to fit into the logics I've perceived. All of these different things can exist outside of the container I have is really hopeful and gives me a lot of peace because I know that this isn't it. This
Mm.
isn't my own set of, mental illnesses and traumas are not the bindings of life.
Mhm.
And those are empty just like the other things.
I see.
So I think that gives me a lot of peace.
Yeah. Makes sense. It's like a sense of freedom in a way. Freedom,
Mm,
immortality. Like you're free from the bindings, like you said. I like
yeah,
that.
that's nice.
Well put. Hmm. Well, you know what? I don't have anything else to say or ask. So probably wrap this thing up. Do you have any last words? Anything you want to get off your chest?
No, it was lovely to talk to you. Thanks so much for connecting with me today. I really enjoyed it.
Same. Yeah, same. Good convo. Keep doing your thing. Wish you all the best. Wish you all the peace, happiness, all the Zen.
You as well. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And how do you say your name, Shakutaki?
Shakutake. That's my Dharma name. I also go by Eli or Rin. Any of them are fine. But yeah,
What does
that one.
Shakutake mean?
Shaku is the prefix for like a follower of Shakyamuni Buddha. And then take means bamboo. So it's the kind of the follower of the Buddha who's like bamboo. Sorry, I keep on
It's
dropping
fine.
this thing that I've been playing with and hitting the same bell. uh, but it's a name Koshi no Gui sensei. He's the old bishop of Jōdo Shinshū, the Buddhist churches of America. And he gave me that name. And well, he described it as like somebody who bends without breaking in the path. Um,
Ah, I see. I
and
like that.
so, yeah, it's lofty. It's more aspiration than an actual description, but they're supposed to like, when they give you a Dharma name, see kind of some true essence about you or some path you might go on. And that's the gift there to think about that as you go on.
I like it. Bend without breaking. It's cool.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. So far, it's been true in all the like gymnastics and kung fu and stuff so far.
A lot of bending. A
A
lot of
lot of
physical
bending.
bending. Physical and emotional bending. Yeah, for all of us.
So much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate your time. Appreciate your wisdom. Other than that, like I said, wish you all the best. Peace out.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Of
This was
course.
great.